Hello and welcome to Behind the Headlines here on WTAJ Plus. Tonight, I thought we'd talk about a subject that rarely gets any discussion, especially on this program. I mean, who cares about whether your state has a budget or not? Obviously, being very, very facetious. My guest, I don't know, I'm getting to the point where I think maybe she should be the co host of this program because she's been on. Judy, is this your third or fourth
This
time?
is my third
Third
time.
time. Okay. And we honestly thought when we talked the first time about the budget that it would only be a matter of days until we had a conclusion. And then I said, well, sometime in the future, we'll have you back on. Well, this is the time that we thought was going to happen much, much earlier. We finally have a budget. How many hundred and what days late was it? Do you know off the top of your head? I should have. I should have.
142 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it took forever.
Did.
And forgive me, I didn't dive into the whys and wherefores, all the line items looking, but I'm kind of, looking around, looking at capsules of what it meant.
Yeah.
This was a lot of time to come to an agreement on a number that was basically a number that you floated and others floated right around that neighborhood weeks ago. That if we could get to compromise on both sides, the last time you were here, you said your proposal had been a flat line. Just keep it as last year. That didn't happen. This is a little less than 5% more, which in terms of budgets seems like a lot, is a lot of money, but it's not a lot compared to what it could have been. The question I have for you is, why did it take so long if this is where we settled?
Yeah. I think it is a large spend number. It's
Well, in terms of 50 billion, a 4.7% increase isn't that much in terms of the top number. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, but a lot of members were very uncomfortable with that higher spend number,
Right.
and we're not bringing in as much. It doesn't balance, but we've made it balance,
Right.
And I'll explain that in a little bit. But it was a higher spend number than many of us were comfortable with, but we got a lot of policy things, a lot of things that will help us moving forward as a Commonwealth. And I'm very, very excited about that. And do you want to talk about those right now?
Sure.
Some of the wins?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And let's keep in mind, for those of you watching, don't understand the dynamic of what's playing out. She is a Republican member of the state Senate. When she talks about wins, these are things that her caucus fought for. I'm only describing them that way so that it's understandable. While there was compromise, the Republicans are going to crow that they got X, Y, and Z, and the Dems are right behind them saying, well, we got 1, 2, 3, so that you understand the perspective. I'm not clouding whether they're good or bad,
right.
but they do come from your side of the aisle, things that you guys insisted had to be in there.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Yeah. And you have to remember it's a product. This budget is a product
Absolutely.
of negotiation between the Democrat House majority
Right.
and the Democrat governor's office and a Republican Senate. So divided government. Everybody had to, be okay with some of this.
Sure.
And really that, I would say that's probably why the Republican Senate held the line for so long, because there were, if you're going to spend this much money, we need to change things in the Commonwealth so we're not in this position
All
again.
right. The top 3 highlights of what you got that you think are best for the people of the Commonwealth.
Sure. So one of them is the abrogation of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative.
That was a
RGGI.
big one, wasn't
And we
it?
talked about that.
Yes.
And that essentially is a tax to power plants or any job creator that emits so much CO2, and they have to pay. You get a certain baseline. If you emit more than that, you have to pay taxes, very high taxes, and that gets passed on to the consumer. So this is a huge energy win for Pennsylvania. It means that their electric bills will not be, they may go up, but not in the way they would have if we had joined this RGGI, this Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is what Governor Wolf wanted to put us in and what Governor Shapiro has wanted us to do. And he's gone to the courts about it. So this was a big win for Pennsylvania. I think we've got a lot of things in here that are accountability measures, some reforms to our welfare system, reforms to human service agencies, but our our welfare system, checking records, death records, so people aren't getting benefits that have died. I mean,
Hmm.
that's pretty simple. Some of those accountability, checking the employment rolls and just cross-checking to make sure people are not getting benefits who don't deserve them. And that was something I think is very important. Other economic wins, permitting reform. In Pennsylvania, it's very difficult to get permits if you're going to move ground, more than 1 acre of ground, if you are going to you maybe have a farm to raise animals, a lot of things you have to get permits for, water, air, those sorts of things. So the permitting has been notoriously behind. Sometimes took over a year to get a permit, which is just unacceptable. Business wants to move quickly. So we have permitting reforms that are deemed approved after so many days for certain permits. So that was a big win. We continue the corporate net income tax reduction, which is good for business, and increase our net operating loss deduction for businesses. So a lot of these things add up to policies that will bring jobs to Pennsylvania, and I'm really excited about that. Those are things that we can do to make our state a bit more appealing to for business to come here. It says I keep saying we're open for business.
Right, right. It's not necessarily an aid to businesses that are here, although they do benefit from the tax
A-
benefit a
abs-
lot.
Yes,
It's one of the
absolutely.
reasons that they stay in business. Now, I know that education was a big deal for the governor when he laid out his plans, and there is an increase of $565 million in basic funding with $105 million for what's called the state's adequacy formula, whatever that is. But so you put in a lot of money for education, which also had a caveat in it. There's less money for charter school reimbursement. Is that so? How does that work? How does that fit the overall plan?
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing that, and I met a few weeks ago with the Blair County superintendents, and their concerns are the money that they spend for charter school.
Right.
Um,
That comes out of their budgets.
correct.
They have to support that charter school.
That is correct.
It has to be offered, and in essence, they help fund it. Otherwise, it wouldn't.
Correct.
And now you cut the amount of money that's going to go to the school districts for that?
So yeah, just some reforms to that, which will help the schools. It will save the schools, the public schools, money. It will save them a lot of money and be a bit of a relief to them because they do. And there's some controversy about some charter schools that
Sure.
are able to advertise and can offer things to parents and free laptops and all sorts of
That they're not
things.
going to get in a public setting, so the incentive is to send your kid here, which is a money-making proposition for the charter schools.
They are for profit. And
Yeah.
I'm a big school choice person, but it needs to be on an even playing field. And some of the reforms that we did will help just reform things a little bit, give it a little bit more of an even playing field. And it will help uh, our public school districts, it will help them quite a bit. So big savings for them.
Let's talk about both the governor and Senator Pittman and others that I've seen were very high on the fact that there are no tax increases in the budget, which was a barometer for a lot of people. It was like the end game. Like, if we have to raise taxes, we're really going to have a problem. Who wants to raise taxes?
Right.
Nobody wants
Nobody
to raise
wants that.
taxes. And you did come up with a new working Pennsylvanians tax credit, refundable credit for those who qualify for the federal earned income tax credit. So it sounds wonderful, but it also is a lot of words pushed together. So tell me what that means and how it works.
Yeah, it just helps working families that are working very hard and gives them a tax break, a bit of a tax break. And so I thought that was a really great opportunity for us to give something back to hardworking Pennsylvanians, people that are working very hard, don't seem to get a lot of breaks, barely making ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really it's a good thing.
The budget, in essence, includes a guarantee that the $8 billion in the so-called rainy day fund won't be touched for this fiscal year. But being honestly, this fiscal year ends when? June
June 30th.
30th.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a guarantee that you can't go to the rainy day fund, or is a rainy day fund expenditure? I know it's set up in case something dramatic happens.
That's correct.
Drastic.
Right.
And you got to do something. But otherwise, it won't be touched for the duration of this budget.
Yes, and I would hope the governor sticks to his word. And I thought those are two big wins.
Yeah.
We did a lot of things in this budget without touching the rainy day fund and without increasing taxes.
But
And those two things are big.
again, from a layman and a quick scan, and with some input from you and the conversations we've had, I thought you both did pretty well. Both parties did pretty well in this budget. The governor, his political aspirations being what they are, and I challenge anyone when they say, oh, I wouldn't do that. Yes, you would. If you were in the same position with the type of popularity and the type of politician Josh Shapiro is, and he now looks like an absolute front runner for the 28 Democratic nomination for president. I mean, that's just a view. But he makes the point as he signs the budget, this is the third budget under his administrations that's been balanced. There aren't a lot of people in this country that can say that. You don't balance a budget with just your majority, your party. You'll obviously have to have compromise. And I guess the question that I'm coming to is, I think, I watched how this played out, and there's something for everyone in this budget. And then I watched what's going on in Washington, and yeah, they came to an agreement, but some people still are losing. You still can't get on an airplane and be assured you're going to get wherever you want to get to. I realize all that's being worked out, but a lot of people will look at that and say, they don't trust politicians.
Yeah.
In general, you're just bad people. And, poll after poll after poll says that. And I always say, yeah, but who are you talking about? There are good people and there are not so good people. But does that make you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile? That it took all this time to come together with people saying, why don't you guys just sit down and agree on something?
Yeah. I think a lot of my constituents, people I spoke with, people who emailed, people who called, I think when they understood that we wanted to get the spend number down, and we did. We trimmed $1.4 billion from the governor's original proposal. No, everybody wasn't comfortable with, they weren't comfortable necessarily with the total spend number. But some of the things that we're doing in this budget and these policy wins will help us moving forward. And I think it will help bring economic development into Pennsylvania. We have wonderful natural resources. We've got very hard workers, especially out here in the West. We've got such hardworking people, good, God-fearing
The
people.
stock, that's everybody says that. The people here are they're different. They care about things, and it's been a lifetime of caring for things.
And good people, hardworking people. So we've got a lot of things going for us, but we have to make sure our tax structure is in place that is going to be business friendly. We have to make sure our policies, energy policy, is compatible with that. We have to make sure that we are lined up to be business friendly, and this permitting is a big deal. I had previously, when I was a state rep, we had one of the big players wanted to come in and put chicken barns in the area in my legislative district, and they did one, and the permitting took so long. This company said, we can't wait that long.
So that's mostly, when you're talking about that type of permitting, that's big players. That's not, I want to add a deck under the back of my house and it's going to take me a while. Or does that also get impacted?
If you're disturbing more than 1 acre of ground, it will.
So if I want to build
trigger a
an outbuilding, and that takes this process, and you believe the process will be shorter, or it absolutely will be shorter?
Absolutely will be shorter. Absolutely. And that's a big deal. I mean, any kind of developer, home builder, Rudder, Sheets, any of those players, any kind of commercial development, it's a big deal. It really is. And it is for a homeowner too.
The budget includes an 8% increase in the managed care program, which supports Medicaid recipients. Again, a lot of fancy words put together. We all know that Medicaid and Medicare are names, are words that have been tossed around on the federal level, and there is genuine fear in the minds of a lot of people who depend on those benefits that they may lose them. So what does an 8% increase in the managed care program mean for a Pennsylvanian on Medicaid?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we're taking a look at all of these programs and saying, what can we do? What can we do to tighten our belts with these programs? Because let's face it, a lot of times there's waste,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and that's a big bugaboo with me. There's waste, and we need to be more efficient in government. And so that's what this is. We just, one of the things we're doing with Medicaid recipients is to we're not going to offer GLP-1s for weight loss. I mean, you can have them for diabetes or any other health, but we're not going to offer those because most commercial insurance policies offered by your, employers
Don't
are
cover.
saying
No.
we don't want to include that
Right.
because they're very expensive.
They are very
And
expensive, right.
it took us, it really jacked up our, what we were paying out in Medicaid. There's a lot of things like that we're going to tighten up.
So when it says an 8% increase for the managed care program, it obviously means it's not cutting for recipients, but 8% of a $50 billion or whatever the number is. Again, real terms, not a lot of money, but is it going to protect these folks on Medicaid is the answer.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being more efficient. And again, making sure that people who are receiving benefits are truly deserving of those benefits.
Sure.
I mean, they're not deceased. They're not working other jobs.
And we know that happens. I mean,
It
there
does
is fraud
happen,
in that system because
unfortunately.
it was created to help those that needed the help, but it quickly became identifiable for some. Wow, this is a great way of making money, and I don't really have to do a lot. And I don't think anybody. Yeah, I think I've always believed that we need to take care of our own, whatever that means. There should not be starving people in this
Correct.
country that legitimately don't have the ways and means to be
Correct.
able to feed themselves.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you should be able to lay around and just collect or be somebody else, fake names and fake IDs. So, yeah, I don't know how you could not think there isn't fraud there. The important thing is, though, that the government is still saying, well, we understand there's a legitimate need. We want to take care of those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that we did here that we didn't talk about, we were able, and our appropriations team is pretty amazing. They were able, we called it, going through the sofa cushions and looking for money, right?
pennies and quarters,
So some of these funds, there's funds out there that are appropriated for one thing or another, and maybe they've not been used. Maybe they've not, and they're still getting money sent into them, and the money isn't being used, it's accumulating. So that is, lapsed funding, some of these special funds that are set aside for a purpose, but really, haven't been used or aren't used much. We started taking some of those funds. We can do that and kind of move things around. And they did a lot of that to make up the differences that, you and I had talked about having, a structural deficit. And so this has been good that we've been able to take some of these funds, and they went to other departments. Seven departments had their budgets cut. They went to, kind of looked around at funds that were in all the departments, and, maybe there were particular departments that really hadn't used much of their budgetary money. They had some accumulated, and we took some of that. So I think it was a really good exercise in accounting to kind of go through and, if you have at home, a savings account that, or a Christmas club or whatever it is that, you didn't have to use all of it and you still have some extra money and you need that money, you take that money out and spread it around.
So it took 140 days past the deadline to do this. Now, in a very short period of time, you're going to have to do it again. And it's a year where there's going to be a number of people that are on ballots. And so jobs and, their own jobs. And, I always tell people, you don't blame a politician for trying to protect their job. You'd do the same thing if you were sitting in their seat. You don't want to give it up. So what happens next summer? Are we going to go through this all over again? I
Yeah.
can't imagine that you'd have something that would go past Election Day of 26. I don't know, call me cynical, but I think it'll be done before then. But,
Yeah.
does this lay the groundwork for the next one, or do we start all over again in a couple
Yeah,
of months?
I certainly hope not. Having a budget impasse is not good for anybody. Um, but sometimes you do have to stand up for what you believe in and what you believe is right. And I believe that's what we did. Um, but I believe, we will have, we're always going to have those rubs, those differences. But next year, I think I don't look for us to have the kind of delay that we had this year. I really don't. Um, I
I'm going to timestamp what you just said, and I'm going to put it in the archives and
well,
pull it
and
out if I need to.
but it's not good for
Right.
it's not good
No,
for
I get it.
anybody. And even like this, I said I met with the superintendents a couple weeks ago, and they had to take loans out, and those loans aren't repaid by anybody. They're repaid by the taxpayer.
Hmm.
So a lot of the human service organizations weren't, they had to lay people off, and so it's very our counties are struggling, and a lot of the counties were laying people off. I mean, it's just not good for anybody. So it's important to hopefully get those budgets done on time.
Regarding what you just talked about now, does their money, is there money going now to school districts and counties? They've been counting on it. They've been borrowing from their own rainy day funds. Are there like checks in the mail for the various
Yeah,
entities throughout the state that are due money but didn't get it?
yeah, very soon. I don't have a timeline for you, Marty, but I know Treasurer Garrity was just ready to go. Like she just needed the okay.
Okay.
They will get those out as soon as possible. I know she will.
So, because that's important, we've
Mhm.
heard from our local county commissioners, that they were going into reserve funds and they were
Mhm.
saying, we think we're all right till the end of the year. If it goes past December 31st, we don't know. So people were being impacted, I guess, and that's something you guys had to be aware of. But uh, yeah, you feel the pain at home, but you're only one person, one vote, right? So when you have a caucus of both parties have their caucuses, their ideals, this is what we want. It is a long process, but I don't think you ever thought it was going to be this long.
Yeah, correct. My first year in office, we was Governor Wolf's first year, and we had a very long budget
Yeah, you
impasse.
did.
And he gave his second budget address before we had last year's done, and it was and he scolded us. He scolded us. Um, it's not fun. It's not. It's actually personally, it's just like painful to me because I know people are hurting, and that's not a good thing.
So there's a lot of gobbledygook in budgets per se.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things in there. You got to be an accountant. You got to be a really good accountant with a really sharp pencil to understand it. I'd like you, so that the average Pennsylvanian who's watching this and says, okay, we got a budget, in as short a period as you can. What does that mean? Why should I be happy as a Pennsylvanian that you guys finally figured it out?
So what that does is, again, it gives counties the money. I mean, it all kind of trickles downhill, right? So um, it goes our counties, our municipalities, townships. They're not getting some of the money, maybe liquid fuels money, and so many things are based out of our state budget. And so it's very important that it gets passed. Money to schools. The schools have to live off their reserves. If they don't have very large reserves, they have to borrow money. And they may have to lay people off. So it's a very, your state budget really matters. And then having a federal budget that wasn't in place, that actually was kind of doubled down on it. So it made it even more painful because the federal money wasn't coming in either. So
it's a good day for Pennsylvania?
it is a good day for Pennsylvania. It really is. And I feel like with what some of the policy wins that we had in this budget will help us to have a brighter future. I'm very upbeat, very excited about that.
All right.
And accountability measures, that
Yeah.
we should have been doing all along.
Judy, Senator Judy Ward, always a pleasure. You come back anytime, although I hope
you.
it's a while before we talk again, because if that means things are rolling like they're supposed to be. And if you haven't noticed, folks, when you watch, she has those incredible eyeglass frames that match everything. She's our hero. Senator Judy Ward,
Thank you for having me.
thank you for coming in
It's a
and trying
pleasure.
to straighten this out. And thank you for watching.